You're under the hood of a 2009 Civic. Hands black with grease. 190,000 miles on it. Check engine light's been on so long it doesn't even register anymore. The estimate just came back. $1,400. Timing belt, water pump, labor. You've got $1,400. That's the problem. It's the same $1,400 sitting between you and next month's rent. You look up. Guy pulls in next to you. Same parking lot. Same gas station. Same faded Carhartt jacket you're wearing right now. You have no idea what's in his bank account. He has no idea what's in yours. Nobody ever does. That's the whole problem with money. It doesn't look like anything until it's too late to guess right. The mechanic's name is Odell. He's worked this bay for 11 years. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He tells you the belt's not the real problem. The real problem is the water pump behind it. Once you're in there, you might as well replace both. That's another $600. You do the math out loud, not because you want to, because your mouth does it before your brain catches up. $2,000. You have $1,400. You tell him you'll think about it. You won't think about it. You already know what you're doing. You're driving it another year on a temporary fix and a prayer. Odell doesn't judge you for that. He's seen 40 guys make the same call this month. You drive home with the check engine lights still on. It's been on so long, you've started to think of it as part of the dashboard, like it belongs there now. You pass a gas station, you don't fill the tank. You put in $20. You've done this so many times you don't even watch the number anymore. You just feel the pump click off and know it's 20. This is the part nobody puts in a headline. $20 of gas isn't a lifestyle choice. It's what's left after rent, after the phone bill, after the thing you forgot was on autopay. You get to work. Your coworker Warden pulls in behind you in a car that's 4 years newer. Nicer rims. Neither of you says anything about it. Just nods. You nod back. That's the whole conversation. A stranger watching the two of you would guess Warden's doing better. A stranger's guess and the truth aren't always the same thing. You go inside. You clock in. Your phone buzzes. The group chat. Someone's posting pictures from a trip to Cancun. You look at it for 4 seconds. You put the phone away. You don't feel jealousy exactly. It's quieter than that. It's just a small, flat feeling that passes through you and leaves nothing behind. Because chasing that feeling costs money you don't have. And the thing about being at zero, actual zero or close to it, is that money stops being about wants. It becomes pure arithmetic. Rent minus paycheck, gas minus distance to work. There's no room in the math for a plane ticket to Mexico. You open your banking app before bed. Not out of hope, out of habit. $412, you close the app. You don't feel anything about the number. You've seen it enough times that it stopped landing. This is what the bottom actually feels like. Not dramatic. Not a movie. Just a number you check and a light on a dashboard that never turns off. Tomorrow you'll drive the same car past the same gas station and put in the same $20. The difference between you and the version of yourself 5 years from now isn't visible yet. It's not in the car. It's not in the jacket. It's in what you do with the next $400 that shows up in your account. The one after rent, after gas, after everything else takes its cut. That's where sign 2 starts, not with a bigger number, with one decision made quietly that nobody else will ever see you make. Why Never Rushed starts as fear and ends as control. $400 became $4,000. Not overnight. 8 months of not touching it. You didn't do anything heroic to get there. You just stopped moving money around like it was on fire. The Civic's still running. Belt held. Odell was right about the pump. It's still fine. You got lucky, and you know it was luck, and you don't pretend otherwise. Something else changed, though. Something smaller. Something nobody would notice unless they were standing close enough. You stopped rushing. Not because you had time now, because you'd learned something the hard way. Rushing never once fixed a bank account. You rushed to the ATM at 0:30 trying to beat a fee. You rushed through a return policy window trying to get $40 back. None of it worked. The money moved on its own schedule. Yours didn't matter to it. So you slowed down. You started reading the whole bill before you paid it. Warden watches you take an extra minute at the register one day, checking the receipt line by line. He laughs a little. You're different this year, man. Chill. He doesn't know it's not calm. It's just conversation. Here's the part that's easy to get backwards. When you were at $400, moving fast looked like survival. Every minute mattered. Every decision was urgent, because everything was one bad week away from falling apart. At $4,000, moving fast starts to cost you. A rushed decision here is a $100 mistake instead of a $5 one. So the slowness that looks like confidence from the outside is actually just math. You've got slightly more room now, and room changes how fast you're willing to move through a decision. From across the parking lot, the two kinds of slow look the same. A person moving unhurried through their day. Nobody can tell which one you are just by watching you walk. You open a savings account that actually pays something, 4.5% instead of the 4 cents your old account was giving you. You put $200 into it on the first of the month automatically, before you can see it or miss it. The first month you check it 3 times a day. Not from anxiety, from something closer to disbelief. It's just sitting there, not moving, not disappearing into a gas tank or a late fee. Your coworker Marisol works in the finance office upstairs. She tells you something in the break room that sticks. Most people don't go broke from one bad decision, she says. They go broke from being in a hurry, over and over for years. You think about that on the drive home, about the $20 gas fill-ups, about how urgency when you're at the bottom isn't a personality trait. It's a symptom. The check engine light finally goes off one Tuesday. You don't know why, you don't ask. You just notice, driving home, that the dashboard looks different than it has in 3 years. Small thing, it shouldn't mean anything. It means something anyway. Your account crosses $8,000 by the end of that year. Then 12. The bank calls you back the same day now instead of 3 days later, not because your balance is impressive, it isn't. Just because accounts that don't bounce checks get treated like accounts, instead of like problems waiting to happen. You didn't become a different person, you became a different category. And the system responds to categories before it ever responds to people. There's a version of you that stops here. Comfortable enough not to panic, not quite motivated enough to keep building. You could live at this level for a decade, and nothing terrible would happen. But you keep the transfer running, $200, then $300, automated on the first of every month, whether you feel like it or not. Rule: slow isn't a mindset. Slow is just what's left over once you stop being afraid. You don't know it yet, but the next shift isn't going to come from a raise or a bonus or anything dramatic. It's going to come from a 5-cent question you start asking about everything you buy. Marisol catches you in the break room again. This time she's got her lunch in one hand and her phone in the other, comparing insurance quotes between bites of a sandwich. You ask her why she's doing that at work. She's got a real job. A real paycheck. Why does she care about $40 a month on car insurance? She looks at you like the question doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I care? It's still $40. That stays with you longer than it should. Something shifts here, and it's not the number in your account. It's the question in your head. You call your internet provider and ask if there's a promotion running. There is. You save $14 a month. You didn't need to save $14 a month. You did it anyway, and it took 4 minutes and nobody saw you do it. That's the detail that matters. Nobody saw it. 5 years ago, asking about price happened in public. At a register, in a line, someone waiting behind you, a little heat on your neck while you did it. Now it happens on hold, alone, in your car during a lunch break. No audience. Just a number getting smaller because you asked a simple question out loud. You put $1,500 into a small brokerage account this year, the first real investment you've made. The market drops 6% the week after you do it. Your hand hovers over the sell button for exactly as long as it takes to remember what Marisol said in the break room. You don't sell. You don't feel proud about it. You just don't do the thing that would have cost you money to feel better for one afternoon. Rule: asking the price never stops. Only the reason for asking changes. There's a version of this life where you stop here, comfortable, checking prices out of a habit that quietly protects what you've built. That would be fine. Most people would call that success. But something else is starting to take shape without you fully noticing it yet. You've started buying fewer things. Not because you can't afford them, because you're starting to wear the same 5 shirts to work and you haven't thought about why yet. You notice it on a Wednesday. 5 hangers, 5 identical navy shirts. You bought them 2 at a time over the last few months without really deciding to. You ask yourself why. The honest answer takes a second to find. It's one less thing to think about in the morning. You've got more going on now than you used to. The side business you started, fixing medical equipment on weekends. The thing you didn't even call a business for the first year, is bringing in $1,700 some months. You've started taking on your own clients instead of just picking up shifts for other people. Your net worth crossed $300,000 this spring. You checked the number once, felt something quiet and brief, and went back to work. 5 years ago, wearing the same shirt over and over would have meant you couldn't afford anything else. Now, it means you've got real decisions to make during the day. Quotes to give, jobs to schedule, a growing list of clients, and you don't want to spend any of that mental fuel on which shirt to put on. Your old friend Tobias calls you that month. You haven't talked in over a year. New truck, new watch, a trip to Punta Cana he's still paying off in the group chat photos. He asks what you've been up to. You tell him the truth. Fixing equipment. Building a client list. Same 5 shirts, basically, every day. He laughs like it's a joke. It's not a joke. You just don't correct him. You open a real business account this year. Marisol helps you set up a simple bookkeeping system on a Sunday afternoon for the cost of a coffee and a favor owed. You put back into the business almost everything you don't need. New tools, a better van, a part-time contractor named Des. You don't upgrade your own life much. Your car, not the Civic anymore, that finally gave out, is a used pickup paid for in cash. You could afford flashy now. You just don't reach for it. 3 years ago, you put $20 of gas in a tank because that's all you had room for. Now, you fill the tank of the work truck every single time without checking the total first. You don't feel anything big about that. It's just quiet, the kind of quiet that used to be loud. Rule: the uniform was always the same. Only the reason you wore it changed. You're 31 years old, 5 shirts in the closet, a used truck in the driveway. $300,000 spread across savings, brokerage, and a business that's starting, quietly, to look like something that could outlast the job you still show up to on Mondays. A quick note before the next sign. None of this is a formula. Plenty of people do all of this. The automation, the small questions, the boring shirts. And life still throws something at them that no spreadsheet saw coming. This is one version of how it can go. Not a guarantee, just a pattern worth noticing. Nobody watching you would guess any of it. That's the part that's about to start mattering more than the number itself. The real estate agent's name is Coach Reyes. He's showing you a house on the north side of town. 4 bedrooms, new construction, $680,000. You could afford it. The bank pre-approved you for more than that without you even asking twice. You've got room to go bigger, Coach says, walking you through the kitchen. Most guys in your position do. You tell him you'll think about it. You don't buy it. Your business, the equipment repair shop you started as a side thing 5 years ago, cleared $210,000 in revenue last year. Des runs a crew of 3 now. You still drive the same truck. You still live in the same 3-bedroom house from sign 4. Your neighbors see the same truck in the driveway they've seen for 3 years. They see you mowing your own lawn on Saturdays because you like doing it. A bigger house means a bigger mortgage. A bigger mortgage means more of your monthly cash flow locked into a building instead of the business that's actually generating the money. Tobias bought bigger 2 years ago. The truck, the watch, Punta Cana. He's 3 months behind now. You know, because his wife mentioned it to your wife at a birthday party. Quietly, the way people mention things they don't want repeated. Nobody would guess it from his driveway. Rule: the house doesn't lie. But almost nobody reads a house that's telling the truth. A bank you've never worked with reaches out that year. Not because you applied for anything, just because your business's growth showed up somewhere on a lending list. They offer you a line of credit at a rate lower than what they'd have offered you at sign 3. You didn't become more deserving of a good rate. You became less risky to lose money on. That's the whole difference. And it has nothing to do with character. Your accountant, a woman named Delphine, sits you down one afternoon and shows you something. If you keep reinvesting into the business instead of upgrading your personal life, your net worth compounds almost twice as fast over the next decade. You cross $1 million in combined assets that winter. You find out almost by accident, checking a statement for an unrelated reason. Your kid needs new cleats for soccer. You buy them at the regular store, not the expensive one 3 towns over. Nobody there has any idea what you're worth. The same quiet that used to sit underneath $20 of gas now sits underneath a decision that could have cost you $600,000. Nobody driving past your house will ever know the decision got made. Dez's daughter gets sick that spring. Nothing you'd read about in a headline, just weeks in and out of a hospital, and a bill that keeps growing every time you ask him how she's doing. You don't ask Dez if he needs help. You already know the answer, and you already know he wouldn't take it if you offered it directly. You call the hospital's billing department yourself. You pay down the balance in 2 installments over 6 weeks. You tell them not to put your name on anything. Dez finds out 3 months later, by accident, from a nurse who wasn't supposed to say anything. He calls you. You tell him it wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal. You just don't need him to know how big. That same month, a guy from a supplier meeting tries to talk you into going in on a boat with 3 other owners. $40,000 buy-in, split 4 ways, docked an hour away. You'd use it maybe 6 times a year. You tell him no. Not rudely. Just no. The boat and the hospital bill cost about the same amount of money. You said yes to one and no to the other. The difference was never the price. It was what the money was actually going toward. Rule: generosity was never about the size of the number. It was always about which direction it was pointed. Your business does over $3 million in revenue this year, across 2 locations. Somebody asks you at a chamber dinner why you don't drive something nicer. Truck runs fine, you tell them. That's the whole answer. It's true, and it's also not the whole truth. The whole truth would take longer to explain than anyone at a dinner wants to hear. Delphine tells you something at your year-end meeting that sticks longer than the numbers do. Most people spend to be seen. You spend to close a gap for somebody. Those aren't the same skill. Your net worth crosses $3.1 million that December. You find out from a spreadsheet. Not a celebration. That's the part that's starting to matter more than the number. Not what you have, what you quietly did with it, and who never found out it was you. You take 4 days off in August. You don't go to Cancun. You drive 2 hours to the same lake house your family's rented every summer since your kid was born. Your kid asks you something on the dock the second night, out of nowhere the way kids do. Are we rich, Dad? You sit with it for a second, longer than you expect to. We're okay, you tell them. We don't need to talk about it more than that. It's not really an answer. Your kid seems satisfied with it anyway, and goes back to the fishing line. Your business crossed $8 million in revenue last year, across 3 locations, with a management team that runs the day-to-day without you having to be there. Delphine restructured things 18 months ago. A holding company, a trust for your kid that started with money you barely noticed leaving your account. Your combined net worth crossed $8.4 million this spring. You found out from a document she sent for your signature. Back at the chamber dinner circuit that fall, a younger business owner, maybe 30, sharp suit, clearly building something, corners you near the bar. He's heard you're doing fine for yourself and spends 10 minutes giving you advice on how to scale a small operation. Reinvest early. Don't overspend on trucks. Watch your margins. You nod along? You don't correct him. There's no clean way to say the thing he'd need to hear. and it wouldn't help either of you tonight. He drives home thinking he advised a guy who runs a couple of repair shops. He has no idea he was talking to someone worth more than most companies in that room. Neither would you have known. 5 signs ago, standing in a parking lot next to a stranger in the same faded jacket. Tobias calls that year too. Different context this time. He's not doing well. The truck's gone. The watch got sold 2 years ago, quietly, before anyone noticed. He asks, half joking, how you've stayed so unbothered by all of it. I just stopped needing anyone to know, you tell him. He doesn't really understand what that means. Rule: wealth doesn't change what you do, it changes why. And almost nobody outside of you can ever see the why. Your circle's gotten smaller, not because you pushed anyone out, but because fewer people are living inside decisions that make sense to explain anymore. Marisol still calls sometimes. Des still runs half your business. Your oldest friends from the shop floor still know the actual you, not the number. You gave, quietly, all the way through the last decade. A hospital bill, a textbook fund, a tank of gas for somebody driving further than they could afford to. You refused, just as quietly, every time the money was pointed at nothing but being seen. Nobody ever figured out the pattern. That was never the goal. Somewhere tonight, 2 hours from where you're sitting, someone's under the hood of a car with 190,000 miles on it. Grease on his hands. An estimate he can't quite afford. A stranger pulling into the same parking lot, wearing the same faded jacket, $20 of gas in a tank that needs 40. He has no idea what's sitting in the other guy's account. The other guy has no idea what's sitting in his. The check engine light comes on. It always does. And somewhere underneath it, one small decision is about to get made that nobody watching will ever see. That's where it always starts. That's where it never stops. The richest thing anyone ever mistook you for was ordinary.